We got the Proboat VELES 29 on the block. All right, this is a discontinued model. It's about 3 years old. I've got a lot of running on this model here, and I've been running it here lately. I've done some hull modifications, and I really want to push this boat. Okay, so I've actually, a couple days ago, I haven't run it yet, but I actually took out the 4074 2050 kV, and I put a 4082 2000 kV in. So this motor is going to have more torque compared to this guy right here. We also have a Castle Creations X8S on the boat. Okay, so it's got a nice power plant. We got the whole modification. The boat's been running pretty good for me. So I want to take the boat out. But I've actually noticed we have some slop back here on our strut, and it's actually caused some wear on my shaft. So that's really unacceptable. Okay, this strut's, like I said, about 3 years old, stock with the boat. So it's time for an upgrade. So I want to keep the Z rudder. I like that. So we're basically just going to replace the strut. We're going to use a Speedmaster Sport 21 round bottom strut. It should bolt right up into this bracket. We may need to do a little milling width-wise, thickness-wise on the strut shank, but everything else should be like perfect for this size boat. Okay, so you got a Speedmaster strut. You get a flat bottom or round bottom option. I would rather have a flat bottom for this boat, but this is what I had in my stock. So we're going to use the round bottom. Should be an interesting test comparison. We got the Speedmaster bushing and a 1/4 inch stuffing tube. So if you do this upgrade, you will need to change out the stuffing tube. It's mandatory. I'll show you why in a second. I use that same strut on my UL19. This is the flat bottom option. I run it on my Vortex 34, also the flat bottom option. I have the larger version on my 42, also a flat bottom. So it's a good strut. One of the best struts you could possibly get your hands on. I'm going to say that. One of the best. So basically you need to install a new stuffing tube, because the stock stuffing tube, it basically just goes into the tip of the barrel like that, right? So it's a short stuffing tube. The new Speedmaster strut needs a stuffing tube that's going to go the full length of the barrel. Then you put your bushing in it, okay, and then your flex cable goes in the bushing. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see the wear. I have some wear marks right in here. It's not bad, but it is wearing on my cable, my shaft. The stock strut is. So the nice thing about Speedmaster is it's a long bushing, so it basically rides on the full length of the shaft. Okay, we may actually need to cut it down just slightly, but it spins, this bushing, it spins basically half the speed of the flex cable, reducing the amount of wear and the amount of friction that gets put on the drive line. So it's a super smooth setup. You don't run a Teflon liner. No Teflon liner when you run the 3/16 cable, 3/16 bushing, 3/16 barrel. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna put it on. Okay. Okay, so I'm actually cutting this stuffing tube. I just got a piece of a hacksaw that I put some tape on. You can use a cutoff wheel. I'm out of cutoff wheels, so I'm just using this little hacksaw blade. Try not to cut my boat. Boom. Okay. So now you'll need a punch and a pair of pliers and a torch. I was going to use a punch, but I decided to use a screwdriver. Heat it up. Get it pretty hot. Stick it in your stuffing tube. Let it heat up. Let it heat up that epoxy. Okay. This is a aftermarket stuffing tube that I've installed. So I need to heat it up pretty good because I'm pretty sure I epoxied the every living shit out of it. So we're going to let it heat up for a second. You can see it smoking. Let's pull it out. Grab you a pair of pliers and it'll heat up that epoxy so you can pull your old stuffing tube out. Boom. Pretty flipping easy. Oh man, I really didn't want to have to take this out. I really don't want to have to take all that out. This is going to be a fast job. So I think we're going to epoxy the stuffing tube in from the outside. Okay, yeah, we're just epoxy it from down here. Should be fine, right? Yeah, hell yeah, be good. We'll be good. Lazy man today. Yeah, you could take all this apart if you want to. Completely up to you. Do as you please. I'm just going to leave it all in because I need the motor in the boat to epoxy or line up the stuffing tube, so I'm going to leave it exactly the way I had it, you know? Less is more, right? Sometimes less is more, right? So that looks good. I've got the inside grinded out so we can get us a little fillet around the stuffing tube. So I got my strut milled out. I left the sharp edge there, okay, and I took some of the thickness down. I got my bushing polished up. I got the shaft kind of polished so everything's turning smooth. Basically, I've used this bushing in the past, so it just had some tarnish on it. So first time we spooled it up, it would have cleaned itself, but I just took this emery cloth. It's like gazillion grit. And I just did that number there real lightly. And then I took my shaft to put my shaft in my drill and I spun it on this gazillion grit emery cloth, right? And we also need to do the same thing for the stuffing tube here where it goes into the strut, because I actually like my stuffing tube. I like it to be tight. It's got to be tight, right? But at the same time, you want a little bit of you want a little play in there, like just so that the strut, when you adjust it positive and negative, move it up and down, it'll kind of float on your stuffing tube, you know, something like that, just so it's not too tight where it don't move. You want it to be, you know, see how it gets harder to move back here, and it slides where we just kind of polished it up. Let's see if I can get this in there for you without having to move the camera. So my strut basically slides into the bracket. Okay, I also widened this hole a little bit with a file. Okay, and then I rounded the ends. I lengthened it and widened it. All right, so we're going to need to get that strut off rather easily while we're putting the stuffing tube in. We'll be back and forth and we don't want to have to fight it, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the Z portion of this rudder. Okay, all right, so we're going to slide the stuffing tube in. So we're going to stick that in there. We're going to get our gap set about right there. Looks good. Okay, actually looks like I'm going to need to bend. Looks like I'm going to need to bend up in here too. Yeah, so I'm going to mark my stuffing tube. I got the gap set on the inside, so we're going to go ahead and kind of mark it right here so we'll know where it goes in the hole and kind of stops at. And it looks like I'm going to need to bend a little bit in my through hole right here. Not much. Let's go ahead and work on that. see what I just did? I just kind of put a little bend in it, and that looks like it's going to meet up to the motor pretty good. Now we need to get this bent so that it meets up to the strut. A good starting point is a neutral strut, basically in line with the ride surface. Okay, I'll show you in a minute, but basically going to start bending it from like right in here, somewhere in here, you know, keeping in line with our bend we've already put on it. We're going to go ahead and mark this cable. We'll mark it a little bit long, just a little bit long. Make sure the strut's about where you want it, where it's supposed to be at, and we can always cut it short. So I'm just going to kind of cut a little bit here. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of cut this a little bit long. We'll cut it off later on. The right size. Probably should have cut the inside, because now we're going to need to clean up the back where the strut goes. So that was kind of silly on my part. You know, probably should have cut the front of the tube, but well, it's too late now. We've already got the bend in it and we're making our cut. So now we're going to need to clean up the back of this tube so that our bushing sits in it. I use this reamer right here. You can use a file, you can use a drill, a combination, sandpaper. Okay, so don't really need to do it right now, but I'm just showing you guys what will need to be done if you cut it at the back, you know. So see, our bushing's not wanting to fit in there nice. So use a reamer, get you a file, kind of file the edge. You know, like so. Boom, boom, boom. Now it fits in there perfect, right? Got a little bit left to go, right? We want this to be basically parallel with a ride surface. I actually like to run a little positive at times on this boat. So we're almost there. Let's slide our flex cable in, see where the alignment is on the inside of the boat. Okay, it's close, pretty close. Okay, so we're gonna pull it out. I'm gonna put a little bit of bend. See, we got a long straight run right here. A lot of times that'll whip. It'll give us some cable whip. So we're gonna put a little bend in it right in here. So there's just a nice long drawn out curve, you know, to reduce whip. You don't want to bend it back here where the strut is or where the bushing goes in. So from like here forward is where you put your bend, and then, you know, what, 3/4 of an inch back from your bushing. You don't really want to bend it, right? So got that little bend in there now. Let's see where that winds up. Okay, so we got a little ways to go. See, it's still pointing down. I'm gonna come forward a little bit, put a little bit in it there. Looks like a little too much. Take a little out, move it back. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now we can start putting it on the glass to see where we need to go with it. But that's looking pretty damn good to me. You know? So we'll put our strut on. Make sure it's kind of in line with our bend. Boom, boom, boom. We had a little overhang, so we'll go ahead and let that hang out. And then we'll put that in kind of all at one time here. Boom. Alright, that's actually looking real good. Okay, so you can see through the tunnel. Just a nice drawn out bend. My flex will sit flat. Well, my strut, I can get it to sit flat. Yeah. Alright, so my rudder's wanting to push the boat up, so I'm going to have to hold it down. Looks like I can get a flat angle on my strut. Got a nice drawn out bend. No kink, you know. No hard bend, just a nice drawn out bend. And then I'll be able to get some positive. I'll be able to get it flat. Pretty important. So let's check alignment here. I'm going to slide the flex cable in. Look at that. Damn near perfect. Just need to twist this flex, or the stuffing tube. I need to twist this stuffing tube a little bit. Look at there. Pretty good. I was worried we were going to have to use a longer cable, but I think this cable is going to work, because I actually put this strut up to the stock strut, the hole, and the trailing edge of the strut's about the same as the stock strut, so everything lines up there. So that's her bend. Pretty easy. Just go back and forth, you know. Now we can epoxy it in. So I got some epoxy mixed up. I'm just going to let it sit here for about 10 minutes and kind of set up a little bit. Going to add some Cabosil, slightly thicken it. Not much, just a little bit, because I want it to be runny so we can get it in all the little nooks and crannies, but at the same time I don't want it to leak out my slightly wallered out through hole. So I'm just going to kind of mix this up. Oh, I think I put too much. Yeah, there we go. That looks better. Yeah, like a glue, you know. Okay. So I'll get this, everything's prepped up. Actually, not really. What we need to do, pull the cable, pull the shaft. Ooh. You'll need to get your bolt ready so you can put your bolt in whenever you epoxy this in. See, that needs to be ready. Okay, so we marked our through hole earlier. So what we're going to do is use some 80 grit. Rough that up. Okay, we're going to clean it with alcohol. This will be a two-step epoxy job for me, because I got to initially epoxy it in the boat, and then I got to fill up this broken area we have on the bottom. So it'll be a two-step process for me. So we clean that. The hull's already clean. Okay, so just gonna get everything lined up on the strut this way, right? Get that lined up. Final time, we're gonna go ahead and slide this in. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and freaking do it. I'm not gonna wait. I'm just gonna wait. So what I'm gonna do is get some epoxy on here, get some epoxy on my tube. Okay. Boom. We'll clean the mess up later. I'm going to go ahead and get a little epoxy in this through hole. Remember, when you push the stuffing tube in, if you put a lot of epoxy in the through hole, it's gonna go in the tube. So we need some clay. Let's get some clay for it. Okay, got some modeling clay here. Just gonna fill the end of my tube. with some hairy ass modeling clay. Okay, this is going to get pushed out when we put the cable in. Alright, so now we can actually put some epoxy in our through hole, right? Because it's not going to get in our tube now. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit in it up here. And then I'm going to take my boat, flip it over. I'm going to put some in here. Boom. This is where I thickened it so it won't run out. Alright. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. I got some drip. I got some drippy drip. Boom. Okay, just a little bit of epoxy in there. Now we can slide this stuffing tube in without having to worry about epoxy getting in our tube. Just nice and slow. Let's take a look on the inside. Clean up any mess, because I don't want to have to remove this whole damn motor mount. Clean up anything, try to be neat. Guess you guys aren't in frame, so I'm gonna go ahead and push this up a little more. It's in our strut bracket. Okay, let's go ahead and get this strut pushed in where it needs to go. Let's go ahead and put our screw in here. Okay, and let's get the flex cable. Alright, so you got a lot of stuff to worry about right now. You want to get the alignment right here. You got to get the alignment right here. Make sure the stuffing tube is, the curve is aligned with your strut. Okay, you need to get the length set back here, right? So I actually like to leave a little bit of this brass stuffing tube hanging out, okay, because when you move this strut back and forth on the stuffing tube, it kind of floats in there. So when you put some up angle on it, it'll kind of float back. The strut will float back on the stuffing tube. When you put some negative angle on it, it'll float forward. So I like to leave just a little sticking out, or yeah, just a little bit, not much. You don't want this bushing to ride in the strut. That's a no-no. You don't want that. I've done it, but you have to actually wire out the inside diameter of the back of the strut, and it's more trouble than what it's worth. So just leave a little bit of stuffing tube hanging out in its neutral position. Not much, maybe a millimeter, if that. So I can actually push mine forward just a hair. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and crimp this down and fill with epoxy. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Alright, so it's actually a couple days later. Our epoxy is cured out. Okay, looks like we got really good alignment to our flex cable collet. Really good alignment there. I went ahead and put my rudder bracket back on. I got the strut on. I've got it set where I'll probably start running the boat. It's about 2 millimeters off the ride surface there. Okay, get you guys kind of a shot of my stuffing tube and the bend I put on it. Just a real light bend. Okay, that way I can get lower than the ride surface. I can go higher, positive, negative, neutral. Very, very flexible drive setup here. You know, the stuffing tube, right? That's like the most important part of your drive line. Getting the bend right, getting the alignment right, and set up right on the bracket back here. So this is a HYDRA strut and the bracket that came with it, but we didn't need the bracket. So yeah, looks pretty good. Okay, before you guys start freaking out on me, I have proper gap set right here. I actually cut the cable. so that I basically can butt the cable up into the collet, and I don't have to set the gap. I just shove it in there, boom, it's set, like ready to roll. You know what I'm saying? So I basically have a 2mm gap here. It's 2mm all day long. Okay, so my moly nylon washer is about 1/2 millimeter, and then we have 1.5 millimeter actual gap, so 2 millimeters total, right? So that's good. 0.187 cable. Hell yeah. And then I ran my stuffing tube up as close as I felt comfortable to my collet, you know. So so the whole cable is supported by the tube. That's very important. If you leave a big gap right here, you know, the cable will pretzel. It'll pretzel on you. It will. So I got my transmitter on. I actually went ahead and installed I installed a Castle Creations COBRA 5.8S on this thing. Right, so actually sounds pretty good. Little loud, because this is metal on metal, right? If it was a Teflon liner, it would be quieter. This is normal. It's normal. No cable whip, no vibration. Sounds good. Actually sounds really good. So warm. It's warm. It's not hot. It's warm, right? Warm. This can be expected when you're spooling up a dry drive line. It's warm. You don't want it to be warm in here, because that means your through hole is going to be hot, warm. Your epoxy will soften, and you'll probably spring a leak. Back here, all this is going to be in the water, you know, and it actually helps lubricate things, right? So, hell yeah. I'm excited to test it, right? With that COBRA 5, the new Speedmaster strut, new stuffing tube we just installed. She should be fast. Should be pretty stable. I don't think we'll notice any difference with the round bottom versus the flat, but it should be interesting. We'll see you guys next time. Like the videos, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I could have filled this in, but I don't feel it necessary. I mean, this boat, it's a beater, you know. You could have filled it in. You can use something like a 1/32 milled fiberglass. Mark Gambita, thanks for sending this out. I appreciate it. Boat gang freaking rocks. We'll see you guys next time.